Hello, this is Jem at Jessie James Beads. I want to show you today how to use your crimp bead and your crimp bead cover. Now there are a number of tools available to help you with these, but I want to show you how to utilise these with just a pair of flat facing pliers. These are my ever present bent chain nose pliers that I prefer to use. What we're going to do, I've already added a J hook, which you can search for as a mini tutorial on its own to one end. I'm going to show you how to finish off at the other end utilising a length of chain. Now you could use a sealed jump ring or one of those little O connectors, it's entirely up to you, but I'm going to use a length of chain just to show you that creating jewellery for people that you don't know the wrist size of is indeed possible. Necklaces and bracelets do indeed come in very many different sizes, but what we're going to do is add a length of chain in at the end opposite to the clasp that's already been added. So I'm going to pop my crimp onto the beading thread to begin with, and when I'm working on projects like this I do like to use an excess of beading thread. It just makes my life ever so much easier. If you're working with just the right amount, it can be a little bit fiddly to pass the beading thread back through the crimp. So we're going to add on a length of chain. As I say, you could use an extender bar or something similar. Popped my chain into position, and I'm going to take the end of the beading thread and pass it back through the crimp like so. So I'm going to pop that all the way through and then draw this back to the closed point of the bracelet. Now if you are creating with incredibly heavy beads, it does pay to do this twice, but these are all quite lightweight. I'm just going to pop my crimp bead cover out of the way for a second. What you'll notice is that I allow just a little bit of space on the end of the bracelet. I don't want everything to be very, very tense. If I push all those beads together and pop the crimp right at the end of that lovely fabric covered bead, what will happen is it will become very difficult for that to bend around, and it will become just a little bit uneven and not very fluid. So I tend to allow just a little bit of extra space near the end. I'm going to draw that quite close. Again, allowing the bracelet to remain fluid. I'm going to just hold on to that for a second. Now you'll notice that there is indeed a gap between the chain and the crimp. I don't want that to be hard up against the chain, because otherwise it will make it very difficult for me to sight the crimp bead. I'm going to press this in one sharp, fast press and flatten the crimp so that it's completely flattened. Now you can get a crimp bead tool which will enable you to fold that over. However, I have been using this very simple method for 10 years and I've never had a piece of jewellery where the crimp has failed. So the choice is absolutely 100% yours. What I'm going to do now is to support that crushed crimp like so and draw the excess of beading thread away. Now one of the reasons for using such a long excess is that I will be able to make earrings with this length of beading thread. It isn't wasted. I'm very canny. I don't like to dispose of things that can indeed be repurposed. So the reason for pulling the excess of wire away sharply is that it will create a little angle on the end of the wire that we wish to dispose of. So I'm going to draw that away from me. I'm going to pop in with the flush side of my cutters, pop those right against the crimp, and very carefully and definitively only cut away the section that we don't need. I have gone to this point in the past, not had my glasses on, and cut the wrong piece of beading thread, which is annoying because then you have to rethread the whole thing. So to make my life easy, I'm just going to ensure that everything is completely flat and smooth. And then I'm going to use my second and third fingers to support the chain on the one side and the bead on the other side, just to create a little bit of tautness in that last section of beading thread. I'm then going to introduce my crimp over the top, my crimp cover rather, over the top of the crimp, and push that so that it encompasses the crimp itself. What I'm going to do now is put my number one, my index finger, underneath and just hold the crimp so that the open section is facing away from my hand. I'm then going to use my flat bent chain nose pliers. They're flat facing, but these are bent and chain nose. And I'm going to very carefully close up the crimp just so that it covers that squashed crimp bead. Now you'll see that there's a little bit of an opening at the top. You can indeed use your crimp bead closing pliers to take this into position as well, but I prefer to use my pliers and just use multiple small and gentle manoeuvres to get that crimp bead cover to sit as if it was a completely round bead on the end. So if I draw that around on itself, you'll see that we have a little bit of relaxation in those beads. It's not so tight that it can't bend properly. And then you have a piece of jewellery that will fit most people. If I just hold on to that chain a second, bring the J-hook over the top, you can see that for me, the bracelet would have been just ½ an inch too small, and I have very tiny wrists, stupidly, unlike the rest of me. So I can then take the end of my J-hook and pass that through the chain. So if I just bring that all the way to the very end and just pass that loop at the end of the J-hook over the piece of chain, you can see that we're going to create a complete bracelet. You know what I was saying about not having my glasses on? I don't have my glasses on. There we go. So that now is a piece of jewellery that will fit almost anyone by using that extender chain. And this is how to get a neat result with minimal tools to use up your crimps and crimp bead covers.